Welcome, everyone, to the Songwriters on Process podcast. My name is Benno Papari, and on this podcast, I take a deep dive into the writing process behind some of the world's best songwriters. By way of background, I am a former English professor. I have a PhD in English language and literature, and I'm a writer myself. So this is a conversation about writing between two writers. My goal has always been to treat songwriters the same way that we treat prose writers, just as writers, plain and simple. So that's all we focus on. I don't care about tour stories, favorite bands, how bands get their name, favorite foods, anything like that. This is, again, a deep dive into the songwriting process with some of the world's best songwriters. And with that, let's get into today's episode. And today on the pod, Meg Duffy, a.k.a. Hand Habits. Meg is Hand Habits. They are the band. And Hand Habits' new album is called Blue Reminder, out on Fat Possum Records. We got off to a great start. Meg said they were a fan of the pod, to which I responded, I'm a big fan of Hand Habits, and that was not part of the recorded convo, so you're not going to hear that. But we just had a blast. It was a really fun conversation. I wrote some great quotes down that Meg said, and they talked about how they're able to get ideas wherever they are, and I love this idea. Meg said that they were getting their oil changed and wrote down, "I just want to be included," and even that phrase can be a seed. And I thought, wow, no one's ever said they've gotten a song idea while getting their oil changed. But this in particular, when they said, I write the most when I'm supposed to be doing something else because it tricks me into thinking that songwriting is rebellious and fun. It feels like I get to choose it. So I love those tricks that we play with ourselves to get ourselves to write. And what Meg said was that if they can make songwriting feel like it's something that they do because they should be doing something else, then it doesn't feel like work. And I love that way. That's such a great idea to kind of trick yourself into getting started quickly. I wrote down the word summoning because they said summoning a lot, summoning the muse and summoning ideas and what we do to summon those things. No one's ever used the word summon before. Walking is a big part of Meg's process as well. They also tell a great story. I think they said they lived below, I'll have to listen again, below or above Kyle Thomas, King Tuff, at some point. And Meg said that Kyle would be playing, wherever he'd be playing, Meg would have to go to the exact opposite part of their apartment so that they didn't get bothered by the noise that Thomas was making, which I just love that story. So we went deep also into the pen type. Oh, we have some good pen discussion here. As you can tell, I loved this. Really one of my favorites in a long time. Such a great conversation about creativity. So I will stop talking now. Again, Hand Habits' new album is called Blue Reminder, out on Fat Possum Records. And here is my interview with Meg Duffy, a.k.a. Hand Habits. I always start with the very basic question, and that is, do you think it's important in some fashion to create every day or only when the mood strikes?
Only when the mood strikes, yeah. And I've gone through phases of feeling really guilty that I wasn't writing every day. And with the long list of people you've mentioned that I actually do know and have worked with, some of them extensively, such as Kevin or Jen, I know that Kevin writes a lot. He's always writing. Every time I see him, he has a new record. And I know that Christian also writes a lot. And Jen probably says she doesn't write every day, but I think she does in some way. And I used to compare myself to a lot of people all the time and feel, and you're a writer too, it's really probably easy to compare yourself to, especially if you're a professor and you're studying the great writers of the world's works very intimately. It's hard to feel like you're doing it wrong, but I think I've let that go finally, and I think with this record in particular, I let myself take really long breaks, and right now, today, as we talk, which is August 12th, 2025, I haven't written a new song in probably, I think it's been a year. I think I maybe wrote one song, um, for a School of Song class that Emily Sprague, my friend, was teaching, and I wrote one song and that was it. Because I can't write for a new record when I'm thinking about a record that I'm about to release. Some people are really good at, on to the next thing. I think Charlie said that in his interview too. He said as soon as we release it, that's when we start writing for the next thing. And I need to be present with the songs that I have, and I think, there are other people in my life that have given me that kind of permission, Mike from Perfume Genius being one of them, where I know for a fact he doesn't write every day, and then when it's time to write a record, he'll start writing, and and I know a lot of other people that I really admire also write that way. And so I think at this point in my life, I'm not gonna force it, but I do think that, I've read Jeff Tweedy's book about songwriting, and I do think that there is something to trying to summon it and trick yourself into getting into the practice, even if you don't want to and the mood isn't striking, and there are some songs on this record actually that came from that approach. Like I was asked to do a song a day challenge with my friend Philip Weinrobe. I don't know if you're familiar with him and his work, but he mixed Sugar the Bruise, my last release, and produced some of it with me sort of retroactively, along with Luke Temple, who has also done a School of Song class too. Um, and I've taught one as well, and it's I'm sure you're aware of it if you're a fan of Process. It's pretty much that, but in a class form. And when I was asked to do a song a day challenge, and that was sort of the first time where I was writing every single day a new song, and it made my life unmanageable. Like,
Yeah, that's what I was gonna ask you. So do you it sounds like you've tried it before
yeah.
and it didn't work.
Well, writing a song to completion, and the criteria for that challenge was if you didn't write a song every day, you would be kicked out of the group. There was a very competitive you will be excommunicated from this group of songwriters that were handpicked, and and if you stay in, you get to hear what songs they write every day, and every morning there would be a playlist of the songwriters, and my biggest fear is not being included. So of course, that's a great incentive for me to write music. But I also it was excruciating, like to because I was also sharing it. It wasn't just writing something; it was something that you had to share. Um, but I also think that getting some idea and following a thread of something and putting it down is considered writing too. I think writing a song to completion, I will not. Maybe I'll do that once every couple of years because it just consumed my whole life, and I was like not brushing my teeth until 5 p.m. and becoming a mole person, as my partner would say. Um, but I think getting something down on the page, making space for inspiration, whether it feels like inspiration or not. Inspiration could just be I'm going to look out the window and like try to notice something. That like even that's it. Or if there's a word even, sometimes I'll just write down a word um in my notes app. I think the I literally was getting my oil changed yesterday and wrote down, uh, "I just want to be included." Like, that was something I wrote down in my notes app, which is, like, so corny and vulnerable to share now that I'm thinking about it, but, even that could just become, like, a seed, and to me, that's important, I think.
So let's talk about the Notes app because songwriters tell me they have thousands of Notes apps or voice memos. Is there any organization to those whatsoever on your phone?
Sometimes. I too will go through my notes app and my voice memos on a plane, and organize them or favorite them or make a folder into ideas. And I if you update your phone, sometimes that can get messed up and it sucks. And I just remembered that my phone updated last night, and I should probably make sure that everything is still named, because once I updated it and everything, all the names got erased. It was like voice memo 1, 2, as like my nightmare. Um, on Notes app, I have tried to organize things into folders, but the folders don't really make sense. Like, one will say lyrics and one will say poetry, and it's like, what's the difference between those? There's not I don't know. And then I've started using a different app for work notes or lists. Uh, I started using Google Keep. And so now I've found myself going to Notes just to write down lyrical seeds. I also am a compulsive journaler, and I go through waves of it. I don't journal every day, but I have been trying to, um, since I've started talking about this record that I've made again. But there's like a shelf over there with about 30 notebooks in it. When we were evacuating for the fires that happened here in Los Angeles in January, um, thankfully everything was okay for us. But, I had to pack some things that I was a psycho while that was happening. It was very traumatizing, and I'm grateful that our house did not catch on fire. But it was really illuminating to see what I took with me,
Hmm.
and the journals were one of the first things that I went for.
Is the journaling separate from songwriting? Because again, I think that's got to be separate. Others journal as a way to leap song ideas.
I think initially when I'm journaling, I'm not thinking, I'm going to look back at this and write a song about it. But the times that I have done and I've never done a formal residency, but when I've done self-imposed residencies or started to write for a record, I will take out journals from the last 5 years and kind of flip through them and re-traumatize myself with, the confessional nature of my journal sometimes, and just reflect, and I will there's days that I've journaled where I've journaled really in detail, in great detail, and that I don't remember at all now. And so that has led to songwriting for me, and specifically, like, not this record with the journaling, but I feel like for other records, like Funhouse, I remember I went up to Northern California for a couple days and just, like, yeah, went through my journals, and even if it's just a line, like, even if it's just one line or a memory, that can lead to a song for me.
You said long breaks. Um, how do you know in that break is ending? And I've got some quotes up here by writers on my screen, and one of the
Right.
ones I love is by Maya Angelou, and this relates to what we're talking about. She said, "There's no greater agony than bearing an untold story inside you." And ooh, like saying that almost gives me chills. So at the end of that long break, is there a need to write? I mean, it's different. Like wanting to write and needing to write are two different things.
I mean, I think that that's what I've learned over the last probably, like, 2 or 3 years, and, you know, for me, songwriting has always the how I was led to songwriting was not necessarily through, like, hearing music and wanting to make the music. It was, always for me, initially, a form of processing my own emotions, like, almost I mean, I did share the song, so there was something there, but it was more so for me than anything else. And so it to me, it always felt like an extension of journaling, and an extension of, like, being a poetry lover and, like, a literature lover, and loving melody, and so it felt like a culmination of those things. And also, I would only do those things when I was sort of suffering or in pain or processing, grief or heartache, a lot of heartache in my early years. And and now, uh, you know, I have other ways of dealing with those things, and it gets exhausting writing about those things over and over again. Um, and in this record I just made, like, is the first time that I wrote from a place of like joy or stability or um reflecting on not being heartbroken. And I've learned also that the breaks, you have to experience the life. You have to have the life experience to write about. And it's so classic. You have these songwriters who only ever start writing about the road and what they see on the road and the highway, and eh, you can tell they've just been on tour constantly.
Right.
It's like longing for someone at home, going home, or, the highway, endless highway. Um, and now I'm learning that, first of all, it's okay to not put out a record every 2 years. That's fine. It's okay if some people forget about you, I think. Um, and also the story sort of build up the kinetic energy, and then, yes, need to circle back, like, need to be shared. And I think that there's something powerful in writing from a place of need. Um, and yeah, I'm learning as I get older that, like, I don't have to write, you know? I want it to be something that I want to do. Um, it's taken a while to feel that, and that doesn't mean that when, I'm not writing a song for a year, it doesn't feel great.
Or you said, I wrote down the word summon because he said summon, and if you start to not feel great, are there practical tricks that you use to summon those ideas? Because if you're thinking, oh shit, like, I should be writing something, but for example, like I go for a walk. I mean, something
Yeah,
really as tangible as that. So
totally.
the things that you do, yeah.
Yeah, going for a walk is huge. I like to be in motion a lot when I'm getting into the assuming the position of becoming songwriter again. I like to be in motion. I'll write things down a lot while I'm in motion, and I find that that's, like, it gets me out of this, like, it's easy for me to sort of get stuck on one line or one idea. Um, and then honestly, the School of Song, which is, for people who don't know what that is, it's a school that my friend Steven and Blue started, that's online, and they have songwriters come on and teach a course on how they write songs. I taught one that was, like, extremely illuminating to me, kind of in a way that I didn't expect that was hard for me to write after, because it was almost like the I got to see how the sausage was made, as they say, which I hate that phrase, but it keeps popping into my head. And I pulled the curtain back on my own process, and so after that, I was like, I want to write differently. What if I wrote, completely in the studio, and then I made a record with Luke Temple in the studio where I wrote almost all of Sugar the Bruise, my last release, in that way, sort of as a response to my own process. But taking other people's classes has been really inspiring. There's one song, at least on this record, that I wrote in a songwriting class, and then these song a day challenges that have been, it gets me out of my normal, like, I'm brooding, I'm processing, I'm gonna pick up a guitar and see sort of what poison I can put into into this 3-minute container. Um and also, I listened to your podcast. That has been inspiring. Listening to other people talk about how they make music, I
Yeah.
find to be really inspiring. The Creative Independent is also a great resource for that. And it's a website where people talk about their process, and it's more so also about their relationship to success too, but it's also how what to do when they're stuck. And there's so much, like, there's so many books on that. And sometimes I don't want to read that either. Sometimes I'll get stubborn and then react. I think my favorite way of summoning the spirit of song, if I'm really, like, wishing it would come, is procrastination. I write the most, uh, like, when I have to do my taxes, when I am, like, supposed to be doing something else. And I'm using air quotes that no one can see, but supposed to be, like, when I have this other commitment or obligation, because then it tricks me into feeling like songwriting is both rebellious and fun, and it feels like I get to choose it. So if I hold up writing against something that, is something that I should, quote unquote, "should be doing," then I get to feel like I'm indulging in something rather than feeling like it's work. Um, Because I think when it starts to feel like work, nobody wants to work. Like, who wants to work? Who wants to go to work? Um I mean, I like going to work sometimes, but even still, like right now, as we're talking, I have rehearsals starting for this next record cycle, this touring cycle starting next week, and I'm doing everything I possibly can to not prepare for that. I've reorganized my shelves, I clean the floor, I do everything. So if I can put songwriting or writing in general in that seat of being the choice, the deviant choice, if you will, then it feels fun. And it feels like, okay, now I'm like, and it feels like, oh, I have a friend coming over. I'm going to pick up my guitar right now. And I remember that's like how I wrote Placeholder. And a friend came by around the window. They're like, yo, what's up? Like, we're supposed to be hanging. And I'm like, so sorry, which I've stopped doing that with friends. I'm better at keeping my commitments now. But I think, yeah, having it be something that you choose, that you would rather do than something else, has been super helpful for me.
See, I look at it a different way, and I agree with you 100%. But what I do is I create false deadlines. So a false deadline is not, oh, start the stopwatch. What can I write in an hour if I don't
Right.
have to stop after that hour? So if my wife says to me, we're going out at 6, I'll start writing at 5 because I know that I have to stop.
That's
Yeah.
great. Yeah.
Um, and I learned that about myself because we live in DC and I go to New York all the time for work, and I'll get more done on that train ride, 3-hour train ride, than if I sat here because I have no choice but to stop. And it's oddly comforting to know, it's a sense of comfort to know that, okay, when I get to New York, this thing's going to be done because it has to be. So
Yeah.
we're talking the same language, just a different
Yeah.
way, but I'm the exact same way. And when I was a professor, I would, so much ink has been spilled in every writing textbook about why procrastination is evil. And what
Mm.
drives me crazy about that is that we're all different thinkers, and telling someone that they should procrastinate, you're not um respecting their process. Now, procrastination means you don't finish the album. That's different.
Right. That's different. Yeah. I'm not, I don't struggle with finishing things
Yeah.
usually. Thankfully. I mean, at this point in my life, I don't. Maybe I will, you know, when there's a kid running around or something. But I think making procrastination the thing that helps you finish is like a cool trick.
Yeah.
And a reframe.
So I want to get back to the motion. Have you ever noticed a difference between the types of motion? So we can really go further, like self locomotion, whether it's biking or hiking or walking, and then there's being on a bus or on a train, on a plane. Do you ever notice a difference there in the creative output?
I've never really noticed. I think walking is the top tier for me. I think when I'm around other people, it's a little harder for me to zone in.
Yeah.
And it's so easy to be distracted. If I'm on a plane, I'll probably watch a movie, or lately I've started playing video games, so that's been taking up a lot of time. That's not good for the writing process. But I think also it is because I'm learning to trust what happens subconsciously too.
Hmm.
And so anytime I'm not thinking about music, I hope that my subconscious brain is thinking about music, or thinking about writing in general. And but no, on when I've been on the bus, I live in LA, so when I'm in motion and I'm not walking, I'm driving myself. And that's when I'll, like, listen to demos maybe and listen to some voice memos, and try to, revisit some maybe melodies but yeah, I don't I don't typically write things down in as much when I'm experiencing, like, locomotion that's not walking.
It the writing process is always taking place, and if you think as a writer that it only takes place when pen hits paper,
Yeah,
you're doomed to failure because you've gotta believe that things are always happening when we're not thinking about them, and that will make it that just lessens the anxiety.
totally. Yeah, yeah, absolutely. And
Um,
pressure can be good, right? Pressure can be great. Like the song a day challenge that I did, that was pressure and it was motivating. But I also think relaxation can be good too.
yeah, what do you mean by
Balance.
that?
I like if you're super stressed out and you're under a lot of pressure, that can make something interesting. I mean, they both can yield interesting products or, final pieces. They can both generate interesting ideas, but I also clearing the mind too can be. I remember talking to, or maybe I wasn't talking to him, it was during Robin Pecknold from the Fleet Foxes school song class, and I really enjoyed his lectures a lot, and he said I think he might have quoted this actually, but when he goes into the room or into the studio, wherever he writes, he keeps writing until every person in his head, every imaginary person in his head has left the room. So, like, your parents, uh, David Bowie, Hemingway, like, Joni, when she's the imaginary Joni, all these imaginary people that you're writing for have left the room. And it's just like you and like the spirit. That's when it's time to start writing. Like, and that's when the good stuff comes, and that's not true for everyone. I've been on tour with Kevin Morby. I watched him write Beautiful Strangers, which is one of his, you know, I think it's his best song he's ever written, and I watched him write that song for a long time in many different Airbnbs and driving me crazy. I'm like, "Why are you writing a song about the big bad wolf? Like, what are you writing like a fairy tale over there?" But he could just write anywhere, and some people they can do that, and other like for me, I think letting things clear out, that can be helpful. But also, like, now I live with my partner, and that's not really an option that much anymore, and so it's been a challenge to figure out how to write, when I know that my partner is upstairs and can hear me. It's a different challenge I'm with right now.
So there's two schools of thought I want to ask you about. So when I was a professor, I would always assign my students the essay "Shitty First Drafts" by Anne
Cool.
Lamott, and I, as a prose writer,
I love her.
my whole thing is or was um, uh, get it all out. You can't edit as you write. You got to get it all out there. And most prose writers, William Faulkner said, get it down, take chances. It may be bad, but it's the only way you can do anything good. Um, and I fully subscribe to that, getting it all out there, not worrying about how it looks. So the other side to that, I interviewed Paul Muldoon, the poet, a couple of weeks ago. But he does a side project on the side as a songwriter. Okay,
Cool.
so this is yeah. So I have not posted the interview yet, but he said something that got me thinking. And he said that when he writes, he can't write, he will not write the second line until the first one is perfect. He
Wow.
has trouble even writing a word until the one before it is perfect. Now, I think as a poet, you have to do that because how things sound, that word you wrote has to sound perfectly with the one before it. So I guess this is my long way of saying I'd love to get your thoughts on it. They're just different. And which one of those do you tend to do? Are you the I can't write this line till that one is perfect, or I get everything out there and then go back?
No, I get everything out there for
You
sure.
do.
And I
Yeah.
actually when I first started writing music, like, I wouldn't even edit. Like, and I wouldn't write things down, and now, as I hope that this is true about me, I'm more mature, definitely more mature person than the person I was in, 2016 when I was writing songs, and a more mature songwriter, which I actually don't know if how we would define that, but, um, I used to not edit really at all, and I could hear it in the writing, and I can hear that, like, I had to fit every verse in, I was very, like, taking a lot of liberties with song lengths, and and yeah, now I've allowed myself to edit, I've allowed myself to get feedback. I would never ask for feedback on lyrics. I think on my first two records, I would never be open to any I think I was too frail to get to get I didn't go to, like, a school where we would critique each other for something we were making. The only critique I ever experienced was for, like, perform music and performance and technical ability or expression, and so I think with lyrics, since it was always such an intimate thing, I didn't want feedback. I'm like, "This is just the way that I'm feeling. This is the way it is. It doesn't matter how it's landing. I don't care what someone's interpreting it as." But then, in between Sugar the Bruise and this record, Blue Reminder, that's coming out, I took actually a poetry workshop, with Elaine Kahn. Are you familiar with her work?
Yeah.
Yeah, she's incredible. I think she's an amazing poet, and she's also a great teacher. And in this workshop, it was the first time that anyone had ever read something. First of all, that was not going to become a song. It was just poetry, and it was on the page, and gave me feedback, and it was very humbling. And of course, since I was writing, on the page and not for bar lines or it didn't have to only be like 5 stanzas with the repeated chorus. I was basically writing prose, and it was humbling. It was a lot of feedback I got. It was surprising to see how people interpreted a poem, and how they interpreted it was, like, wildly something I never even expected to land that way, and also, they were like, "There's too much imagery in this," there's, like, way too much imagery, and, it was exciting and inspiring to sort of revisit these things and craft them, and some of them were, like, 3 lines, like, that was sort of the structure I was playing with, and so when I went into writing for this new record, I wanted to edit a bit more and not just have it be first thought, best thought. And the title track from this record, Blue Reminder, like took me like 2 years to write. And I would go back part of that was for the composition of it. Um and part of it was for lyrics, and I wanted it to feel strong, and my partner now is she's like a great editor, and I trust her most of the time. Sometimes I'm like, "No, I like it the way it is, and I think it's good, and I just needed you to tell me that you didn't like it so I could say I like it and trust myself that this is good." And like it's actually funny you mentioned Anne Lamott because she wrote Bird by Bird, right?
Yeah, that's what Shitty First Drafts is from, that book.
Yeah, I thought so. So actually the song Bluebird of Happiness that's on this record, Blue Reminder, I co-wrote with Marina Allen, who is Anne Lamont's stepdaughter. Um,
Full circle.
and to tie it all together, Bird by Bird too, like it's a bird song. But yeah, I was more open to like writing with other people and collaborating on the writing side, and I think I've always done that with the music side of things, but not so much on the lyrical side of things. And yeah, I'm more as I get older, more into editing. To answer your question, it's a long-winded way of answering, but sometimes you can't beat the first draft though. And sometimes the first draft is just like, that was the raw emotion. And like, often when I'm writing, I'll pick up the guitar and just sort of sing and see what happens. Like, I won't write things on the page first. Um, Most of the time, I'll just sort of channel. And that doesn't always work, but sometimes it does. And sometimes it's like, okay, this is how the song's coming. We have to honor the song gods right now by not changing the way the lyrics came, sort of infused with the melody. Yeah.
And the longer you wait, right? If that, because I think there's value in the rawness of the song or the idea, and the further you get from it, the further you are from the original emotion, and it
Definitely.
changes,
Yeah.
right?
Which that can be kinda cool too. Which is what I experienced in that workshop too, where, you know, the feeling that I was trying to convey was not the feeling that people were receiving, and so I was like, "Well, let's just make it more in the feeling that what people are receiving and shape it to to mean that or to convey that," and that was interesting. It was cool.
But was that how hard was that for you? Because I feel like you're saying, "This is not what I wanted to write, but I'm gonna mold it to what they
It
wanna
was a
read."
fun challenge. It was a fun challenge. I mean, those I knew that those weren't gonna become songs, so the stakes felt a little lower and, you know, I made a poetry manuscript that I, like, submitted to a couple publishing houses and nothing happened, so that's done. It was fun. I did one poetry reading, which I was so more nervous to do that than I was for anything I've ever done. I've played literally played Carnegie Hall, was more nervous to do a 20-person poetry reading in, you know, a book library in LA, because you don't have the melody or the production to sort of help you. Um, so I envy people like you who write, you know, for the page, and I just think it's you can get away with a lot with a good melody, and so but it was a fun challenge to kind of let the poem or let the prose become something else, and when someone said, "This is landing like this for me," then I thought, "Well, maybe that was what wanted to come through," and so what if I follow that? And that was it was a fun challenge too.
My 2 favorite poets are Galway Kinnell. I have his
Really?
yeah, I have his he's passed away about 10 years ago, but, he's from the Northeast, and, I've got a signed I was in Powell's in Portland a couple years ago, and they have in that upstairs
Yeah,
floor the rare book section,
yeah.
and there's a like, an 18 by 24, 24 by 30 poem, a framed poem, and it was signed by him.
Wow,
And I go, "Well, I'm clearly buying that." And I remember buying it, and I mean, I remember I'm almost getting chills right now paying for it, and I started to get really emotional, like
wow.
how much it meant to me
That's
because it was
amazing.
one of my favorite poems, and it was signed,
Wow,
and I brought it home. So that's the other one. Other favorite is Lee Young Lee, and Lee Young Lee. Um, I've seen him read before, and I actually interviewed him, and he told me he gave me this amazing image. He said, "I woke up this morning and I saw the outline of my wife and my wife's bodies in the bed sheets, and I'm gonna write a poem about it." And I thought, "Well, that's why you're a poet, because I see a bed sheets and I think that needs to be made." But he saw the outline of their bodies,
wow.
and that was beautiful to him, and I thought, "I'll never get there."
You gotta get a memory foam mattress is what that means.
That's right. I love the practical solution to that. We'll just get a memory foam
Well, then
mattress.
you could see the outline, you know?
Exactly,
Yeah.
right. A couple more very practical questions. When you're writing on the guitar,
Mhm.
some songwriters tell me they sit, others tell me they stand, others tell me they walk around. Do you ever do either? Do you have a preferred method?
I sit a lot when I'm writing, and I like to look out the window too. I feel like that's sitting and looking out the window feels good to me. Right now where I am in my studio, it's like it's not even the main part of my studio, but I'm just sitting close to the window. I like to be close to the window and but in my in my last house that I lived in before my partner and I moved in together, I would walk around a lot. I would walk around a lot. It was a dark interior place and similar to this one, like built into the hill. So even though I can go outside right here, I'm still in the basement. It's like built into into the
Mm.
hillside. And I would walk around a little bit. Yeah, kind of a hybrid of both. When I would walk around in that last place, it was also because my the in LA, a lot of the houses that are super charming, they are also really poorly built and they don't have insulation. And there's like, you know, you can like see the upstairs light on through the downstairs if you have a downstairs. And both this place and that place my studio and where I lived mostly was in the lower basement part of it, and so you could always hear people walking around upstairs. And in my last place I lived in with Kyle Thomas, aka King Tuff, who I loved, and he's always writing music too, and he would walk around. And so sometimes when he would be walking around with his guitar, I would get inspired or annoyed. I would get inspired and I would sort of try to move away from him while he was he would walk into the kitchen, and then I would walk into, my living room downstairs, or he would go into his bedroom, which was over my studio. So then I would go into my bedroom, and it was like sort of this. We've never talked about it either, actually. Um, yeah,
That's hilarious. And my incredibly gross overgeneralization is that the people who walk around are more Americana or country outlaw.
interesting,
I've no idea, but I could probably rattle off a lot of names pretty
interesting.
easily.
Yeah.
Um, and that, by the way, is how I believe Jackson Brown and Glenn Fry of the Eagles got together, because
Wow.
Glenn Fry was living below him and would always hear Jackson Brown at all hours of the day in LA,
Wow.
walking around and playing music.
I did not know that. I did not know that, yeah. I mean, that
Uh,
was why I wrote my record Funhouse all sitting in my bedroom at that house, because it was the farthest place away from Kyle's studio in the house, and if he was working on something, like, in the recording studio and, like, listening to playback or, tracking electric guitars, it would drive me insane. Like, I couldn't focus, um, and so I would just go into my bedroom, which was, like, I could barely hear it, and that was so I was just in my bedroom sitting. And I think also, when you're younger, like, and you have a bunch of roommates, it's like you end up writing in your bedroom because that's the only place, nobody's go I'm not gonna, like, walk into the kitchen while my friends are waking up and making coffee and being, like, just gonna be writing my songs. Um, what kind of people write seated?
It's almost every other people except for that genre. And again,
Yeah,
like I'd be hard pressed to think of. There are a lot of names I can think of who are the outlaw country Americana that I've
yeah,
interviewed who write like that.
right,
Um, and I don't know what it is. If it's the beat of the listening to it's hearing the sounds of their feet, but
right.
yeah. Um, Morning person or night person, does that matter?
Again, when I didn't live with a partner, it would be all times, and I think mostly morning, like, if I lived completely alone and was just on my own schedule, morning, like, before I've eaten, um, and then this horrible thing happens where, I write for 4 hours and then I'm starving and, like, haven't gotten dressed and haven't brushed my teeth. That's what happened during the songwriting challenge. It was like I completely enthralled and distracted by whatever was coming writing wise. But now I can't really do that as much. And I also can't really stay up super late, just given the nature of the house that we're in is, like I said, I can hear her walking around, so she can hear me probably right now. And so I can't stay up till like 2 or 3, which is also something I would do left to my own devices. Very unpredictable though. So at all times, I guess, all times. Left to my own devices, though, it's either early morning, like before I even, it would be like make coffee and then not really drink the coffee and just start writing and hopefully something comes, or like 3 p.m. to 4 p.m. and go completely into the night. That's like ideal.
So let me get this straight. You make the coffee, but don't drink the coffee.
Yeah, like it sits there, gets cold, and then I'd like drink the cold coffee, am starving, have to stop, but then like won't, Not
I love it.
healthy. It's not healthy.
I love just uncovering these quirks. We all have those quirks. I
Do you
love
have any
that.
like that?
So my one thing is I never write and revise in the same place. That's my big thing.
That's
So
cool.
if I write in this chair, I'll revise in that chair behind me. But this is what I always tell people. I no longer write in this chair, and there's a reason. During COVID, I was doing so many work calls looking at
Right.
this green dot on my computer, and I
Yeah.
associated that drudgery with just, not good feelings.
Yeah.
And I realized, wow, I can no longer write in this chair because I was associating, there was that conditioning of associating this with, oh my gosh, I got another
Right.
call. So I
Mhm.
can't write here anymore. I can write in that chair, but I can't write in this chair. Are you a pen and paper person or a computer person when it comes to lyrics?
Definitely pen and paper.
Okay, so color of ink, brand of pen.
Um, I I go through phases with pens. This one is one that my partner uses, and so I'm just they're all over the house. It's a Jetstream Uni 0.5. It's really nice. It's thin. I like thin. I like when the tip is very thin. What do you got?
I know, I feel like this is not sponsored content, by the way.
No,
A Pentel Energel liquid
it's not
gel ink.
sponsored. Oh, that I like those.
These are the
I
best.
like those. It's not sponsored, but we will take a sponsorship.
That's true, we will.
I was into,
Um,
like, there was this other one too. I'll message you. I can't remember what the brand was. And then these notebooks I really like, these Roll-On. Yeah.
yeah. What color is the paper?
It's sort of like cream, I guess, but I like grid. I like a grid paper.
Mean like a grid, like graphing?
Yeah, it's like graphing.
Whoa.
Yeah, I like that. I don't know, and these also have, um these are great for being on tour. These also have, like, these places where you can put stuff in, you know? And this is a kind of new one, so I'll always, like, end up with, like, rocks and feathers and, stuff, but these just have postcards in it from my friend's art show that I saw in Boise. But I'll have, like I kinda am a trash collector a little bit, and I will often pick up like, if I see a handwritten note that, like, is on the street, even if it's just, like, someone's to-do list or something, I really am fascinated by that sort of stuff. And so I'll always my journals will end up with stuff like that or notes from my roommates or notes that I wrote or I like I don't like to be in the digital realm unless I have to be. Um, yeah.
And did you tell me color of ink? Does that matter?
It's blue, but it doesn't matter. I have this purple pen upstairs that I've been really into lately. It's gel too, and it's purple. And it smears too, like a little bit, so things will get all smudgy, which I kind of like.
Yeah, see, I've been dealing with that all my life as left-handed person,
Okay, that's
so
tough. Yeah.
traumatizing.
Yeah.
So when you cross things out, is it a single line or are you scribbling into oblivion?
I mean, I don't it's been a while since I've revised on paper with a pen, I guess, but I don't scribble, no. Cross it out because I wanna see.
You
I wanna
may
see
use it
what
later.
didn't make the cut, you know?
Yeah.
'Cause the next day, I might be like, "That was actually it." Yeah. What about
I
you?
s I'm a sc as I say scribble into oblivion because that's what Lily from Beach Bunny told me. She used that phrase, and I love it. I'm a complete scribble into oblivion because of the when they tell you when they used to take those standardized tests on paper, the
Right.
answers that you know you're not gonna use, cross them out so you don't even they're not even in your consciousness.
Oh, wow, I didn't get that kind of training.
Yeah. So,
I went to the
la
school where they're like, "It could be any of them. 'Em. Don't forget."
alright, last question. So, let's talk writing.
Okay.
I'm assuming you like poetry,
Yes.
but are there genres of are you a genre person when it comes to poetry, fiction, or are you an author person?
I think I'm an author person. The only time I'll be a genre person is sci-fi. I'm into sci-fi. I just started reading this book called Solaris. I don't know who wrote it. I'm really bad with remembering titles and authors too. It's not a good trait. But I am more so an author person though. Um Jeanette Winterson. I don't know why I said Jeanette. I've never said it that way before. Jeanette Winterson was a huge inspiration for me. Um I love her writing a lot. Very gay, very like dramatic, emotional, and also kind of magical realism too. I like magical realism. I like when not too much of it, but I like just enough of it. Um, I love Iris Murdoch too. The Irish Catholic in me really resonates with that sort of thing. And, uh, Calm Tolban, I don't actually know how to s
Yeah,
yeah.
absolutely.
I actually met
Nice.
him, at a party once, and I was, like, so starstruck, it was really funny. My friend Gracie, um, writes a lot of, like, art right, she does a lot of art writing, and she hangs out with a lot of writers, she's a brilliant writer herself, and
Yeah.
it was at her birthday party, and she was like, "This is Colm," and I was, like, so starstruck. He's this cute little old Irish man, and yeah, I love
Yeah.
his writing a lot.
I took several Irish. I don't know. My PhD is in 20th century dramatic literature, so playwrights. But I took, for whatever reason, I took like two or three Irish literature classes getting my PhD. That's how Paul Muldoon, but
Yeah,
Colm Toibin, I think we pronounced his name correctly. Yeah, I mean, I read him, and so McDonough, Martin McDonough, those playwrights, and incredible stuff. Yeah, there's so, I mean, obviously Irish have such a rich history.
yeah,
Um, that's really cool. So, it's funny you say the titles because I'm a complete Kindle person. I'm not wedded at all to the smell of the
yeah,
page or the feeling. But if you were to ask me what book I just read by Kevin Wilson, which I just read, I can't tell you what the title is because I never look at the title page
right.
anymore.
That's what's good about holding it. You see
I know.
yeah,
So, are you do you read more than one book at a time or just one?
definitely not, no. I don't know how people do that, like, go
More than one.
yeah, I
Oh,
just
yeah.
I don't know how do you?
I do fiction and nonfiction
Okay,
typically.
that's
They have
that's
to be different.
okay. That's
Yeah.
okay. That's different. I can't be cross-contaminating narratives. That's
Right, that's the issue. They gotta be different.
yeah, but I'll flip like, it depends on what you consider reading a book, you know? I have books everywhere all the time, and, like, right now on our coffee table upstairs is, like, The Birth Partner, because 'cause I'm, like, reading about my partner being pregnant and trying to think about that. I think I read about 1 paragraph a day and then get overwhelmed. Um, and then I read in the Solaris book, like, before bed, but then yeah, on tour, like, I'll read every day and only read 1 book and then finish it, go that So, if I'm home and the books are around, I'll flip through nonfiction, and there's also always guitar books everywhere, so, I'm not, like, reading those. It's like working out of them. Although the Ted Green book that I have, he's funny. I like reading his writing about guitar. Um, yeah, but I can't do more than 1, fiction book at a time, no way.
Do you have to finish a book, or can you say, like, I used to be the type of person that had to finish something, but now I don't, and it's incredibly liberating?
A book has to be really bad for me not to finish it. I like to finish I started actually reading it, an Iris Murdoch short story, and it was called, like it was just really beautiful, it was, like, a small one I got at a book sale, and I had to stop reading it. It was, like, really problematic and, like, racist and, like, weird and, like, anti-Semitic, and I was like, "Okay, this was written in a different time." So if a book's, like, really not doing it for me, but, I try to finish. I try to finish. I didn't finish Martyr. I don't know why. Did you read that book?
No.
Everybody was talking about it. I feel like every one of my friends was reading it, and it was great, and I loved it, but there's sometimes I lose it. I sometimes lose it. Also, I'm doing a bunch of press right now, so haven't been I haven't been doing anything that I should be doing that's good for me.
And that's it for the latest episode of Songwriters on Process. You can find all of the old episodes on all major streaming platforms and probably some minor ones as well. You can also find them on the Songwriters on Process website. I started the site back in 2011, so that means there are hundreds upon hundreds of interviews with some of the world's best songwriters. So take a deep dive into some of those episodes. They are all great. Of course, I'm biased. Also, shameless plug. My book, Desolation, a Heavy Metal Memoir by Mark Morton with Benno Papari, that is me, is out now on Hachette Books. and in all major bookstores. Mark is a good friend of mine. He is the guitarist in the metal band Lamb of God. And so we collaborated on his memoir. I'm biased, but that's a damn good book. Again, it is called Desolation, a Heavy Metal Memoir. And lastly, if you want to get in touch, go to the Songwriters on Process website. You can fill out a handy contact form, and it'll get to me that way. You can also email me at ben@songwritersonprocess.com. I'm all ears. Send me your comments, your suggestions, your complaints, people you want me to interview. I get great suggestions all the time. I can't respond to all of the emails because I get a lot of them, but I do read all of them. And let me know your thoughts. If you have ideas for people you want me to interview, there's your chance. And with that, I am out. See you next time.